for that. And I always told people, I said, anything about Daniel, you would have to watch yourself. I told you that so many people, I can't even remember how many times I said that. I said, I have to watch myself because I would never want to take advantage of him. Because he would never, like, if you were taking advantage of Daniel, he would never speak up. Now, the rest of us is a little bit different. We would all stand up for ourselves. But Daniel he was so compliant that you had to be careful. You wouldn't want to, after work, like Lynn had said, that if he needed help, and I remember seeing his truck pull up, he called, hey Chris, you need some help? And he had been up since 2 o'clock in the morning and working for Boris said, and here comes this truck parking. And he's like, oh Daniel, you're just a sight for sore eyes. And it's just very hard. So many things that you remember, and I was thinking of, it's so hard. There's no way you could put 22 years of memories in just a few minutes. There's just no way. It's something that I guess you just have to live with. But I was thinking about so many things that he did, and it's just like different people said, you don't repeat, but sometimes just so many stories you hear, and I was thinking that Daniel did not have not even one enemy. If Daniel ever had an enemy, it's only because someone was jealous of something he could do better than them, but like skating or whatever. But other than that, Daniel had no one that hated him. I've not met one person that said, well, I'm sorry for you, but Daniel did such and such. Not even one, not even one. Just a great guy, and I feel sad for him that didn't get to meet him. We are at a loss for words to feel like, so many things that I was telling people. I said, there's no course on earth that could prepare you for something like this. I mean, especially the first few days, by the time you have to make all these preparations, you kind of feel like you're numb and in a fog bank. But I know the first 3 days was just, just terrible, terrible. And every day it's terrible, but sometimes you just kind of get so preoccupied with so many things that you have to do, and you just kind of get in it's like a blur, everything like a tornado. But so many things I've seen people do over the years. Sometimes you see people when you talk to them, and when they're talking about their relative, they don't cry. And I thought, wow, they're taking it pretty easy, but no, it's not. It's when they're at home, and when they're by themselves, and when they're with the memories that it's just unholy to watch that. God, I can't even imagine where in the world these tears are coming from. It's just, and then I see people with their relative died in an accident, so how they put stuff, and I thought, that's kind of strange. It's almost like they're making a big deal, but here I find myself doing the same thing, or wanting to go just sit there because you don't really want to sit at home. There's nothing I want to do. There's a million things I have to do, but nothing I want to do, and I just want to go sit down there. I guess you feel like you're near the last place he was, but just a very, very nice man. And that's the way I always wanted to be remembered. And I just really thank God for the 22 years that we did have together. And we were very close. To me, more Daniel felt more like feel like he was our son. To be honest, I don't have a son, but just I guess because Daniel and I were the only two. Daniel still lived at home. He actually, literally, physically was born in that house at home and lived there until June 1st. That day my dad was up waiting for him to come home. And it's just like, and I live right next door, so I'd see him out in the field kicking this football, and he'd come down to our house, and it's just been very hard. And I just really appreciate that everyone that came out, and to me the most touching thing are the church people got together, and just food, and it's been all the friends and people that shared their stories, and it's just really amazing. You just think about it, you wish that it didn't have to take something like this for people to come together. You wish it could be in happy times when Daniel could see everything we're doing, everything we're saying. But I definitely appreciate everybody coming out, and I appreciate everybody's prayers, and just want everyone to remember Daniel. I know I will never forget Daniel. I may get better, but I'll never be okay. And I'll never forget Daniel, and I don't want anyone else to either. I just thank God for coming.
I'm Charles. I'm Daniel's oldest brother. And I have to say, like everybody else has said, Daniel, we miss a lot. And it's not not just an exaggeration. You know, everybody says that, most people say that their family, you know, was kind and gentle, but it's really how he was. I don't know him ever to do anybody wrong, and he was just the sweetest person that I know. I mean, I never really told him that, because it's not something you just go up and say to your brother, but, sometimes you wish that you would have. And it's just an awful feeling, and I can't help but think whenever I do all this, how even in the Bible, when Lazarus, even before Jesus raised him, when Jesus found out, he said, our friend, he said, he called Lazarus his friend. He said, his friend was dead, and Jesus wept. And that's how I feel, my best friend and my brother died. And just thank y'all for being here.
Daniel was my older little brother. Everybody always thought I was older than him, and even though he was 15 months older, I always looked at him as a little brother. I felt like there was nothing that I wouldn't do for him. And I can remember, different times, even I was bowling with him, and somebody would say something, or something would come up, and I'm over here, getting in somebody's face for him. I'm like, Daniel, he's like, oh, it's all right, don't worry about it, I don't care. People can say whatever, and I'm like, you can't let people walk on you at the same time, but he had that nature, and his personality was something that you can't clone that. And, I was thinking about different people that maybe you met them once, or people known for a few years, or known your whole life, and he had the same impact on you. Whether you knew him his whole life, or met him once, everybody says the same thing. He was just so kind and gentle, and it reminds me of the saying people say only the good die young, but it's just a terrible thing that someone so good that got cheated on life. I was only 22 years old, and I'm glad to say that I had such a wonderful brother, and even along with the rest of my family that's still here, and now it just makes you realize that life's so short. And it could be ended even shorter, and I don't want to ever take anybody for granted. Appreciate the ones that are still here, and appreciate everybody that showed up, and just always want to remember my brother and all the good memories that we had. And the only memory I have that isn't good wasn't my brother's fault. It was we were at the skating rink, and ever since we were little, my parents would leave, and we'd meet at both ends of the hallway when they left, and see if we could take each other to the ground first, and we'd be sitting there wrestling almost until they got home, or one of us ended up with blood coming out. And even when we got older, we were at the skating rink, and we were sitting there messing around and swinging at each other. And the swung, aimed a little too close and caught him in the nose. I looked up and his nose was crooked, and I felt horrible. I'm like, Daniel, if it was me, you can play around, but when you hit me in the nose, it's going to get serious. And Daniel's like, oh no, it's fine, I'll just pop it back in place. Pop it back in, and his eyes were black underneath for 2 weeks. And he's like, I won't tell anybody, I don't want them to know you did. I'll just say we were at skating. They don't need to know the details. That's just how he was, though. He may have got frustrated, but I haven't seen him get mad. Regardless of what people did, and almost to a fault. People could take advantage. Like my dad said, he was just that. He had such a soft nature, and that's something that I wish I could be more like. And I could only try to do it in honor of him, and just try to be more like how he was, and just be more gentle and kind, and just like I said, appreciate everybody coming in.
Like Daniel, I was homeschooled, so public speaking isn't something I'm too familiar with. As everyone knows in this room, Daniel was a very amazing person. Always giving, never mad, hardworking. Always as if God sent him to the world to be a role model for others. Luckily, that's something that every one of us got to experience for ourselves. Daniel's last night with us, to me, was one of the best nights with him. I remember skating around the rink with Daniel when he showed up. With only a few minutes of talking to him, he brought up the fact that he sold his white Camaro and started to describe the new one that he just got. Throughout the years, anytime Daniel and I talked about cars, he would always say how badly he wanted a Camaro or a Corvette. This car was the car of his dreams, and while he described his Camaro, his eyes lit up, and you could tell how excited he was. Daniel finally had a cool car. The best part was when he tried to start it up with the skates on, pushing in the clutch, put pause on, isn't that easy as it seems. Once he started it, he slightly revved it. The smile of gratification was unforgettable. Friday night was a very memorable night, from him showing me his car, shuffle skating, rolling around the rink, talking about life, how each other's work was going, trying to pick a day to hang out that work around our busy schedules. Before long, it was time to do the races. After racing on skates, chasing the DJ announced the foot races. At first, I didn't want to do them, but Daniel encouraged me to race with him. When our group came up, Daniel and I were walking out to the floor when Daniel overheard Big Chris talking about how much more I would grip to the floor because I wasn't wearing socks. We don't wear socks as these kids. At least on the stump. Immediately, Daniel turned around, and while taking his socks off, somebody said in his very memorable voice, somebody said, "Oh man, I forgot mine too." A lot of you were happy he was happy about his car, but deep inside, you never wanted to have it. Owning that car was Daniel's dream, and I'll never forget the smile of gratification on his face. I'm just thankful to God that I got to see Daniel have such joyful last night. Say not in grief he is no more, but live in thankfulness that he was.
Well, Daniel, just really thank God for Daniel. Wonderful person, he just really was. I mean, I've known him for, it was 11 years. And he's always a wonderful person, just such a bright light in everyone's life, everywhere you go. And, such a helpful person. I'm running through the skies right now. I had things I wanted to say. Just talk from the heart. And, I just, we worked together for 5 years, I guess. It started when he was 17, and was a wonderful worker. We always did anything you asked him. Just never complaining, and it's just always positive. We'd have hard days, and he would just be there, plugging along and never complaining. I remember all the good times of, just watching him in amazement. He was so athletic, and he liked to show it. It was great. You see him just jump up on a loading dock. You got a loading dock this high, and he just run, take one step, and jump right on top of it. Fell a couple times. He didn't stop him. He just kept doing it. And all his injuries, he got hurt a lot, and it never slowed him down. Whatever injury he had at the time, you wouldn't know it. He'd go right through it. I could see him. In the cooler, say we have these floats stacked this high, and they're 10 deep, and we got one all the way in the back you can't get to. You got to move 15 floats to get to it. And we were all just standing around. I wanted to do it, and Daniel would just jump right on top of that float and skate right across and go to the back and dig down to the bottom and get whatever we need. And he was happy. happy to do it. It's irreplaceable. Irreplaceable. You know? My right-hand man is always there for us. And, you know, I think, you know, Daniel slept very well. He is very deep sleeper. He liked sleep. I would wake him up quite often, 3 o'clock in the morning. And, you know, he'd always say, there was 2 responses. Either I'm on my way or I'm almost there. I'm on my way, man. He's on his way out of bed. And I'm almost there means he's probably in his car. And, you know, you couldn't get mad at him, you know. In the beginning, I would, you know, try to get on to him, like, come on, Daniel, you know, you've been late 5 days this week. You know, he was hard, I couldn't do it, you know, he's hard on himself. He would come in, hanging his head down low, you know, he'd be disappointed in himself, and, you know, after a while, I never said nothing to him, you know. He'd feel bad for himself, you know, you don't want to say, you know, I felt bad for him, you know. I don't want to get on him, but I feel bad just watching him, you know, disappointed in himself. You know, he really touched so many people's lives everywhere he went. You know, we'd go to stores and, you know, everyone was always happy to see him. If I go to a Publix or something without him, everybody's, where's Damon? How's Damon doing? How's Damon? You know? And everybody really loved him. And it's, you know, it's been a really terrible week with, you know, everywhere we go, people are crying, people are sad. It's just a real somber feeling, and just doesn't feel like it'll ever get better. And, you know, I think of the good times of, you know, how much people really, I mean, you know, Daniel was very sarcastic, and, you know, people loved it, you know, they really did, you know. I don't know how many times I heard this week, you know, well, who's going to give me a hard time now, you know? People are really going to miss him, giving him a hard time, and said, oh, you know, really used to beat me up, you know, used to tear me up, really going to miss him. I said, Lord, you just ain't as fun as Daniel. So I know, I can't ever be as fun as Daniel. He used to, all the ladies in the deli just really, you know, look forward to seeing him. And when I think of the one lady, she used to say, and every time if I walked in there without her, she would say, where's my son? Where's my son? And a lot of people consider him like his son. You know? Where's my son? I don't know, someone else today. And then she told me this week, oh, I really miss him. He used to come in here and tell me, hey Mom, where's my breakfast? You know, that's just the way Daniel was. He loved giving people a hard time, and people loved, you know, just interacting with him. He really, you know, brighten everybody's spirit. You know, he's never down and always very happy. Just, you know, really missing him. Thing I wanted to say. You know, I think another thing I think of quite often, I don't know why, it's weird how you have memories of over the years, and sometimes you think of things over the years, and then, you know, you're like, I think at this time, which I probably don't remember anything from that year, but one time me and we're leaving church or whatever, sitting in the car, and see Jason and Daniel, and, you know, I think of this off, you know, once in a while. They were young, like, I don't know, 12 or something. They come up to my car and they're talking. I said, wow, Jason, your voice is really getting deep. And Daniel's right behind me, hey, what about me? What about my voice? I don't know why, but I think of that over the years. I mean, I probably don't remember nothing else from that year, but for some reason that really, wonderful. Also, I wanted to really thank, everyone from Publix really showing their support. Everyone, I mean, it's just amazing how many people he touched, just everywhere. And, it's just, he'll never be forgotten. He'll always be part of you. I was thinking of how generous he was, very generous. We'd be on the truck every day, he'd buy a king-size Reese's piece. He loved his Reese's. I don't think I could ever eat a Reese's without thinking of him. And he'd always offer you his last meal, like half his whatever he had, he'd offer it to you. He would always give you his last Reese's as much as he loved them. Like, one. And he always offered. And, I really thank God for him. Wonderful inspiration to everyone to want to be like, and you really can't. Just to kind of hold on to his attitude. It's a wonderful attitude.
Dan, I honestly have no idea where to start. You are one of the greatest people I've ever met. No one can ever compare to your personality. It doesn't seem real that you're gone. This past week I've been hoping and praying that I will wake up from my nightmare. And I'll be able to call you and tell you that I'm so happy that we're friends and how much you have impacted me. I met you about a year ago at Skate Mania. We just clicked right away. But then again, who wouldn't click with you? You would have to be out of your mind not to be your friend. Be friends with a guy like you. You're the most kind-hearted person I've ever met. You are never mad nor have you grudge towards anyone. You always have a smile on your face no matter what. We would always be chasing each other around the rink. You're always a little faster than me, but I never gave up. I always thought that each time we raced, I got a little bit closer to beating you. There wasn't one week that you weren't at the rink, and if you were, everyone could tell you weren't there. You impacted so many people. You brightened everyone's day. You always did for me. I'm so glad that I was lucky enough to meet you. You're one of my closest friends. I remember how you always used to ask me for my teasel, because your axles were always coming loose. It kills me that you'll never ask again. The memories will always stick. I'll always remember the last we shared together. The smiles that we always gave each other when we were swerving in and out of people at the rink. Dan, you're the first person I've ever stood up in front of people and did something like this for. But I know for a fact that you would do the same for me. I'm happy that I am able to get up here and tell you all about the memories I had with Daniel. We may have lost him, but the memory will always stick. There's a deep stand. You're forever in our hearts.
Praise the Lord, everybody. My name is Brother Dunn. I got a lot of memories of this family. I remember when I first went to church with them over there. I heard the little boys, they was going around at 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there, and quote the Bible. Started Genesis, they go all the way to Revelation. They were like 3 or 4 years old, somewhere in there. And it kind of encouraged me. I went home and I learned the Bible 5 books at a time because of what I saw them do. I am here today to encourage the Hunt family, friends, loved ones. Daniel, that's a shell there. The redemption process has already been taking place in this young man's life. You hear the testimonies of his smiles, how he encouraged people, how he inspired people to want to be like him. I just want to say this to you, that the grace of God is beyond understanding. This young man has gone on. Love the Lord. I know this because I know his family. What about some of us? Where are we today? There will be a time when we all meet again. I just want to encourage some of us out there that may not know Jesus Christ to get to know him. You know, I'm proud to stand here and say that I am one of the brothers. I'm one of the brothers also. But today I also know that taking a verse from what one of the young men said about Daniel, that he loved to quote was Solomon, the time for everything. Laugh, time to cry, time to live. There's a time to die. God said, you give a man 60, 70, 80 years, some of us in there, some of you all in there past 70 and 80. But I guarantee everyone in here knows someone that didn't make it that far. Is God unfair? No. I heard somebody say we had 22 years with him. Sometimes I think we misunderstand things, and we think our wives, our husbands, our children are ours, when in reality they're God's. You cherish every day that you have your loved one with you. Give them a hug. I heard the one brother talk about how he wished he had told him what he meant and he was his best friend. Take advice from that. Hug your wife, hug your children. I lost my parents, sister, all that. But this that I do know, Brother Paul, that God is God. No matter how you form it, he's in control. And I know there's some heavy hearts out there. That's understandable. But we have to have faith in the promises of God. He promised us that he would see us through it. Brother Hunt, he promised us. I know sometimes it's easy to talk about faith when we don't need it. It's easy to talk about these things when we don't need it. But when it hit home, now is the time to bind together. It's time to lean on you, brother. Lean on dad. Lean on brother for strength. And most of all, lean on God. Thank you.
Daniel was exceptional. He was smart, he was quick, and he was capable. When it came to his job, there wasn't anything he couldn't do. When there was a problem, he'd solve it. When there was a mistake, or when I made a mistake, which was frequent, he would always be there to help me out. I would often make the remark about how fast and efficient he was, and his reply with that big smile of his would be, "I'm waiting on you, old man." He was awesome. And last fall, he would play football at either the Sportsplex or Jeremy Gant on Sundays. And he came up to me during the week at work and said, "Hey, Toby, you've played football before. How about you showing me a few things? You know, you were a wide receiver in college, and I've been catching passes and stuff. I like to know what it's all about." Well, obviously he was a very coachable kid, because we went out to the Sportsplex and I taught him a few pass patterns, how to get by a cornerback, how to beat a safety into the end zone, just little things that I could share with him. And he was so coachable, and he was so gracious. But more importantly, this exuberance just oozed from his pores. He was so great. And I would throw the ball over and over and over again. He was wearing me out. And whether it was a good pass or a bad pass, he'd catch it. He was so athletic, quick, fast. And, you know, after we would drill on these things, he'd say, "Let's run some wind sprints." I'd roll my eyes, I'd, okay. And naturally, he was fast as a bullet. And, you know, he was just back and forth, and I tried to run with him, and I was trying not to have a heart attack. And then I said, "Daniel, you know, you got a lot of speed." And he said, "You know, waiting on you, old man." But anyway, the most important thing, along with all his gifts and talents, and I would always cherish this, whenever I got to work with Daniel, especially going to Gainesville, I'd ride in a truck with him. And if he wanted to sleep, it was a bummer, because I would have to drive. Because when he drove, the conversation naturally got around to Scripture. And he taught me so much. And I was just thoroughly impressed. Here's this 20-some-year-old kid telling this 60-year-old old man things that it humbled me that he was so willing to share his thoughts, his beliefs. And I wrote something down. The most important attribute was his relationship with his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. His gift was steadfast faith and conviction. I first heard the word conviction from his father. And it meant a lot to me. And I talked to Eric, and I talked to Jim, I talked to Mordecai. And it just, the word conviction jumps out at me, because now I think of Daniel. His passions for his beliefs were always straight ahead. No wavering, no deviation from what he knew to be true. And he was absolutely unafraid to share it with anyone, whether they wanted to hear it or not. They were foolish not to hear it. You know, a couple of weeks back, I was having a discussion with Jim Brown at work. And we were talking about false teachings and corrupt dialogue. And Jim quoted 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 20. And I quote, "Knowing this first, that no prophecy of the Scripture is of any private interpretation." Daniel believed in what he read, what he learned, what was taught. And there was just, he was just straight ahead. You know, I think that the young man was enlightened. And from now on, when reading this verse, I'll think of Daniel. There was no gray matter. It was either black or white with Daniel. He was true to himself and to others, to his all, to his very core. You know, years ago, many years ago, when I was a soldier, you know, and we were other soldiers, we were all in these difficult circumstances, and a lot of terrible things were happening around us. And kind of, this other soldier came up to me, and I never thought about it at the time, and I never gave it much thought. But as I grew older, I started to rationalize with what this guy said. And he said to me, you know, isn't it strange how people who suffer together are stronger than those that are most content? Danny was a positive influence in my life, and I'm sure in all of your lives. And when it comes to strength, let us be strong in knowing that we were so fortunate to have been a part of his life. I consider Daniel a gift to me. And he was an incredible human being. You know, before I get down, I'd like to read from you. You know, when I read 2 Peter after Jim told me about it, I decided to read the whole chapter yesterday. And the first chapter, verse 1 through 8, this gives me comfort when I read this because I think of Daniel. And it goes, Simon Peter, a servant and apostle of Jesus Christ, to them that have obtained like precious faith with us through the righteousness of God and our Savior Jesus Christ. Grace and peace be multiplied unto you through the knowledge of God and of Jesus our Lord, according to his divine power, have given unto us all things that pertain unto life and godliness, through knowledge of him that hath called us to glory and virtue, whereby are given unto us exceeding great and precious promises, that by these ye might be partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. And besides this, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue, to virtue knowledge, to knowledge temperance, and to temperance patience, and to patience godliness. And verse 7 and 8, that's Daniel. That's coming up. And to godliness brotherly kindness, that's Daniel. And to brotherly kindness charity, that's Daniel. For if these things be in you and abound, they make you that ye shall neither be barren nor unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. God bless Daniel and God bless you all. Thank you.
Good to see everybody come out today and show their respect to Daniel. I've never cried so much in my whole life, and I'm 47, but this man was a worthy man to be cried over. I've never wept so much, and I'll still weep, maybe not now, but I'm sure a lot of y'all, I know a lot of y'all wept. You don't have to think, you know, a time like this, people a lot of times are reaching to try to find something good to say about somebody. You're going to have to search to try to find something bad about Daniel. I have nothing good to say about Daniel. I know Peter and the ones at Boar's Head, Publix, Peter lost a great employee. He was a great worker. Just nonstop. I mean, running. Some people are hiding. I've seen people. Right? You try to find them. Not Daniel. It's like, where did he get the energy? I mean, this guy, I know he slept hard, but he didn't sleep much. I mean, he slept hard, but he didn't get a lot of rest. And just amazing. And y'all that skated with him, he lost a good skating partner. Us at church, we lost a great brother. And like I said, I've wept so much. He was a brother. I knew him when he was born. And he would look at me sometimes after church meetings, the corner of his eye kind of look up and say, "You getting something?" I said, "Wait a minute, this guy's got to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning." And like somebody said, you could easily take advantage of it. You'd have to want to go where he went. I mean, he'd go, if you said Wendy's, he would never argue. And that's something. They've said it already, that I've never seen him mad. You know, like, even when he hurt his leg playing football, I guess, and he's trying to cover it up, but something he can't cover up, but he had to pull it out. But I'll miss him. And I know people put that, we'll miss you and that, but he truly will be missed. And there's nothing wrong with crying. You know, some things that's, you know, men don't cry. Well, I cried. David in the Bible, that was a man after God's own heart, wept over his enemies, Saul, Abner, his own son, Absalom, that was chasing him, trying to kill him. He said, "Oh, my son, Absalom, my son," he wept. So there's nothing wrong when Jesus comes back. Revelations 21:4 said he shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. So I can stand here and say many good things, and we've heard so many things, but I'm glad I got to meet him, and it's really something to try to be like Daniel. I remember Pete, I think it was maybe a month or two, somebody doing a bad job at work, and you know, man, they're not doing too good. And yeah, he couldn't pull bad things. He didn't want to talk about people, and that's a good thing. But thank you.
Not really good at being. My stepdad passed away 5 years ago and came out the world to me. And Daniel was the last one to meet him before he died. And Daniel came to pick me up to go skating, and David sat there and with my 2 older brothers. And he was like, "Let's intimidate him. Let's see if we can scare him." And so they picked up the very big shotguns that were fake, and they started skating it. And Daniel walks inside and he goes, "So you're taking my daughter out on a date?" And Daniel's like, "No, I'm taking her skating." And David goes, "Okay, we'll be careful with her." And David went and put him away and all that. And I walked outside with Daniel and I was like, "I'm so sorry about that." And he was like, "Was that supposed to intimidate you?" Because it didn't work. Those were fake. And I was like, alright, obviously you weren't full. And we go skating, and like, for those who went skating with us, you remember when Daniel would like whip around the corner and he would wobble like a penguin to stop? And then he would try and, for those who wore quads, he would try and take his inline and trip you with it. Levi, you know, because I was his first victim. Every time I'd skate, he would just take his quad, or he'd take his inline and put it in between my quad, and before I could even fall, he'd pick me up. He'd be like, "I'm just kidding, I'm going to let you fall." So that was good. And then one time we went to McDonald's, and of course he wouldn't let me pay for my own meal, which I only bought it from the dollar menu, so I didn't, you know, I thought he'd let me pay for it. And we made this bet. I couldn't remember what the bet was, but I told him, I was like, "All right, well, if I win, you have to eat French fries with ice cream." Well, I didn't know that was good. I didn't know those two put together was really good. And I'm sure he knew because he was like, all right, I'll do it. And then he was like, but for you, and he's like, you have to put ice cream on your Big Mac because he knew I love Big Mac. And ever since then, I would not put ice cream on my Big Mac for the life. I would make up the story. I don't feel good, Daniel. I'm probably going to puke, you know, I'm just not feeling good. And then he'd go, and I moved from Ocala to my dad's, and me and my dad always had problems, but Daniel would be the first one to see this. And he was on my birthday. I didn't really have a good birthday. And Daniel mailed me a teddy bear. And he was just the sweetest person ever. And I can't even go skating now that he's not there. But like you guys said, like you couldn't find a bad thing to say about him at all. And when my stepdad was alive, he'd look at me and go, you know, if you want this intimidation to stop, all these questions, like CSI, like he wanted it all to stop. If you brought a boy over, it has to be Daniel. And I was like, man, Daniel's my best friend, been best friends for 8 years, like, it's not like that. And he was like, well, then I guess the intimidation's going to keep going unless you bring Daniel back. And then when my stepdad passed away, which still not over it, but I thought I'd never lose somebody again. And then when I lost Daniel, it really hurt. But I get on the phone for the past week with Alex, and me and her would just bring up random stories that would make us laugh for hours. And like, we were always asking how Jason would be or how Charles would be. And like, we would just sit there and talk, and I can repeat the story about my stepdad and a stupid shotgun, and like everybody could just laugh for hours. I can repeat it twice and he'd still laugh. But Daniel was a good guy, and he'd always text me, and you know, when I moved, the whole group, the whole skating group, kind of went and did their own thing, like not many of them went skating anymore. And it killed Daniel, because Daniel loved the group more than anything. He loved me, he loved Levi, Alex, he loved Jimmy, Cassandra, he loved everybody. There's not one person that didn't hate him or he didn't hate, like, not one of them. And if there was one thing Daniel would have wanted was for everybody to be back skating like they usually did. So he can trick people with his inline and do the penguin waddle or just do something. But I'm really sorry for everybody's loss. You know, we're going to hurt for a while, but just know that he loved everybody. And we loved him.
This was a very hard thing for me when I heard it. I've been knowing this family for a long time. To be the one actually birthed me into the gospel. When I got news of it, I just broke down crying because the things that I knew about these young guys are just fun memories to me. I remember Daniel was the type of person that likes to run. Also, I remember one time when I was at the sheriff department, I brought my police car over there, and Jason and Charles and Daniel, they came to the patrol car, and they wanted to hear the loudspeaker, and what I did, I thought I switched it over the loudspeaker, but I liked it on the radio. And they was going, you know, like, you know, this thing, all that going. My captain called me, but, you know, and I told him what I was doing, but he thought it was, he didn't take no offense to it, but I told him what I was doing. But anyway, I just used to like having fun with them, and my son grew up with these young guys, you know, and just knowing Daniel, Daniel was the type of person that I remember him never really have to get on him about anything, you know, because he was so soft. I mean, you know, when I say soft, I say that in a good way. I don't say that as in a weak, but I'm talking about soft-hearted. And he is a good example, just like even his boys are even right now.
not just then, but even now, just the way it was raised and, just loving the Lord. And I know some already said about, how they used to love the scriptures. And I mean, I learned some things from them just quoting the Bible. They was very good at it, and that I'm sure that didn't leave him, that still stayed with him, even though he's not here with us now. But, the only thing that can comfort my mind, because believe it or not, everybody in here is going to go through the same thing one day. But I can tell you this, even though Daniel is gone, his testimony that he has still has him living within our hearts. And that's what we all should be out to obtain, as a good testimony. So I really, really just thank God for, just the person he was. Thank God for just the family, and just the opportunity to get a chance to know them, and just such a good example of a young man. I mean, there's a lot of, I heard, a lot of people that know him, just should follow his footsteps, and his footsteps was that he loved the Lord, and that's the goal, that everybody to love the Lord. So I just really just thank God, but it's never an easy thing to absorb. I mean, I know, we can say what we say, but when this thing hit home, it really, 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 really tears your heart out. And Daniel, to me, when I heard the news, it was like, to me, I had an uncle recently died, and we all grew up together. We like 1 year from each other, but it didn't affect me like when I heard what happened to Daniel. The only person I can think of that's a relative of mine that really passed away that hurted me like I heard Daniel was my wife's brother when he passed away. And matter of fact, he was about 22 also. And that really tore me. I was hurt so bad. I was working for Bellevue Police Department. They actually had to send me home call. I just couldn't function. And I know the Bible says weep with them that weep, and this is a time of weeping. Words, I mean, you can say what you want to say, but when it hit home, you just won't really know how it feels until it hit home, but I just thank God for having a compassionate heart, and thank God for everybody that's out to support them. And I thank God that I've been praying, that the Lord comfort the family, because in these times you need it. No matter how much you love the Lord, as strong as we are, but we need God's comfort in these times. But the hope is the resurrection. That's the hope. And I believe in the resurrection, the way Daniel's attitude was, that's what the resurrection ought to be like with everybody's character. So, I just really thank God just for able to be here to show some support.
Another thing Daniel to me, I'm an only child, so obviously people feel sympathy for single children. They are, oh, I'm so sorry when they hear. And it never really felt like I was an only child, because of my uncles always being there for me. And I remember when Charles and Jason moved out, and it really bothered me. And of course, Daniel was their brother, so I know it bothered him too. Not that people are going to move on, it's not that. It's just I remember him coming down and asking if I want to go for a bike ride. He's like, just remember, I'm going to be here. I'm not going to leave you. I'm going to stay here. And he always wanted, even if it was bothering him, he always wanted to make you feel better. He was always like that. It's so hard right now seeing everyone that I love everyone's hurting like I am. And we try to think back, because with someone like Daniel, you don't want them they should never be sad. They're just that type of person. They always were making someone else happy, so it's like they should never have to feel sorrow themselves. And I was thinking about one of the only times I seen him upset was whenever he lost his finger in the car. And he would come down to our house and I would change the bandage, and it was so hard because you never see him upset. So it was one of the only times I ever seen him upset, and it breaks your heart to see someone that's always happy. And even then he would try, at different times he would try to just be like, let it go and stuff. And last year I went to school, and if it was my first year in school, and it'd be hard sometimes, so after school I'd be outside calling him, and I'd be talking to him on the phone because he came to pick me up. And he'd come up and I got you a Frosty, and you'll be okay. And you just think about, stuff he did that really meant a lot. And people say, oh, some people will say that you'll get over it, and no, I never will completely. And it's impossible to forget someone like Daniel, because it's like losing your hand and forgetting what it was like, forgetting, oh, I forgot what it's like to use my hand. You can't forget him. I never thought that I would have to speak without him here, or have to speak at something like this. If it should be anything, it should be his wedding or something, not his funeral. Last Sunday, the Sunday before, he wanted to show me his car. And so he's like, oh, let's go down to Zaxby's and get something to eat. So I wasn't going to go because it was not a real good day for me. So I said, no, he always asks me, and I'm like, no, I'm going to go this time. And I'm so glad I went. I try to think about things that I did do with him, because honestly, if I told you every memory that's been going through my head this week, I would be talking for hours. We sit at night, me and my family will sit at night and you just start talking about something new, just a whole new memory you have of him, and you start crying all over again. And I'm really thankful for those. I'm very thankful for the memories I have of him. I try to not dwell on what could have been, but what I have. And Daniel was always ready to listen. I'm not real good at not complaining about things. So if we would be in the truck driving somewhere and I'd be talking about something else that's bothering me, he's like, oh, you need to be like me, just let it go. Just let it all go. And I was thinking about that this week, that I really want to be more like Daniel, because he's just such a positive person. And I'm really thankful for everything that he did with me, and everything that, the memories I have with him. I'm thankful for all the people that have helped us, because it really has meant a lot. It's hard during something like this. You don't realize what it's like to lose somebody until it happens to you. And so people that show their support, it really means a lot. And I'm just really thankful for everyone here.
Daniel was a really nice person. I really enjoyed being around him. He would come to our house every other Monday. Just felt really off to Bible studies. And just a really nice person. I really thank God for him being a good influence on other people. I just want to sing the song. In the morning,